Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we are doing a special little mini-sode here because we are announcing officially our horror movie challenge for 2023. Of course, anyone that's done that before knows that we do it a little differently. We don't just give you a list of things to do. We give you a bunch of objectives to claim.
Yeah, so let's go through kind of the high level. If you guys have never done this before, this is very interesting and very puzzly and very tricky. So we have 49 different objectives that you have to fulfill if you want to get the maximum total points of 1031, which is the date of Halloween. So we always try to plan it so that our points total up to 1031. And each objective has a point value associated with it. And your goal is to watch 31 movies in October, no more than 31. You have to watch exactly 31 and fulfill all 49 objectives within those 31 films. Obviously, this means that you're going to have movies count for more than one objective. And what I typically do, here's my strategy. I'll give you guys a hint if you have never done this before. A great strategy for me is find a movie that fulfills at least 2 or 3 objectives. Try to get one that fulfills as many objectives as you possibly can. Even if you sometimes I've found a movie that can fulfill 7 or 8 objectives. Yeah. Go ahead and claim those objectives with that one film. Then when you go back to your next movie, you can start checking out other objectives, and sometimes you'll end up having to shuffle things around. So maybe you claimed one objective with this first movie you watched in October, but later on you may have to take that objective away from that movie and assign it to a different movie just to make all the math work. So you'll see as you go along, you'll figure this out. Our longtime listeners that have done this horror movie challenge have kind of tried to figure out different strategies for it. But that's my suggestion is try to find movies that fulfill as many objectives as possible, because ultimately you can't watch more than 31.
Right. And now, granted, there's no rule as that once you get movies don't have to claim an objective either, because one of the final objectives, the two, quickly before we go into all the objectives, 48 and 49 are bonuses basically to complete it. And one is watch no more than 31 films in 31 days and complete all the objectives. That gets you the 50 and 51 points to bring it up to the 1031. So if you're all the way done claiming the objectives, hey, you can just watch movies then the rest of the way, as long as you don't go over the 31.
Yeah, if you fulfill them all with 26 movies, that's great. You got 5 free movies you can watch.
Yeah, I've done that. I think last year, the year before, there was one point where I had 6 of my last movies didn't claim anything.
Yeah.
But the good thing to do is why we release it a week early, is because we want to give you that time to prepare. Because I know Jeff and Cody, I swear to God, I think they start a support group with each other, and they just go, they sit there and they probably go there that meme where it's Charlie Day with the scribbling board. I feel like that's what's going on in their homes.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to use all the tools. You're going to have to use IMDb. You're going to have to use Google. You're going to have to. Sometimes you're just going to have to watch a movie and hope that it happens to run into an objective that you need. Sometimes I've been watching a movie for one objective and go, oh my God, there's a scene in a kitchen. I can use it for this objective or something, as an example. So you're going to do some of that as well, because some of these you're not going to be able to research right off the top of your head. Right.
And there's some you just have to take the gamble that it's going to be in there based off the topic. And and you just assume, and you're hoping. And sometimes you'll see a movie, there was one movie I saw last year, I could have claimed 12 objectives for it, but I already had the movies scheduled to watch. And I already had claimed so many from it, I just let it ride. I'm like, okay, whatever. But so yeah, and the best part about this is I think you'll find as you end up, I think I mentioned this the other way, you'll get to the deepest crevices of the world of horror. I mean, you'll find stuff that you never would even possibly think existed or would watch, but you end up one of being your favorite movie, or something. It's because you never know what you're going to find, and that's what's so cool about this.
That's important too. There is no official rule that says you have to watch movies you haven't seen. You can watch movies you've seen before. If it helps you fulfill the objectives, it does not count against you in any way. But Brian and I have always had a personal goal of watching only movies we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and I think most people kind of adapt that as well.
Yeah,
I think
it's hard.
It's part of the fun.
It gets harder every year because we watched 31 movies last year that we can't use anymore. Right. So it definitely gets harder, but that's a fun little optional objective you can throw on yourself if you want to make it extra hard.
Yeah, and so remember, we'll remind you at the end, and we'll post this on social media too. The link to get your official score sheet, which gives you all the objectives and the points total and some blank stuff that you can use to help keep track of what you're watching. And it has the official rules page too, so we can go, we're not going to read that over again because we kind of explained it enough. But now what we're just going to do quickly is Tim and I are going to alternate going through the challenges and explain the objectives. And of course, if you have any questions, you just you can send us a thing. Sometimes there's judges' rulings you need, which we're more than happy to oblige. And also, too, the best part about it is we highly recommend when you watch a movie, we usually do it on all the social medias, but and anyone you're on, just you share the movie you watch it, claim the objective. Sometimes it could help someone else, and also in turn they could give you something that you didn't even think of to watch. Like last year, what was it, Carne the Taco Maker?
Yeah, you had to watch a movie with a.
I was the only one that had a different one than everyone else because I found one somehow. But
so a lot of people like hashtag Civil Gore HMC 2023.
Or no, 7. Sorry, it's HMC 7.
Okay, HMC 7. This is the 7th one, right? Okay, so yeah, so hashtag Civil Gore HMC 7, and then you can put your I watched Jaws, and it satisfied objectives 5 and 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it helps other people out.
Yeah. So let's we'll quickly go through each objective this year and a little explanation, and we'll get going. Do you want to start, or should I start, Tim?
Go ahead and start.
Okay, first one is in honor of one of our longest time listeners and our dear friend Cody. A running joke for the Civil Gore podcast is that Cody likes the long episodes and Ken likes short episodes. So the first challenge is Cody or not Cody. And you basically have to watch a horror movie that's either over 2 hours long or under 80 minutes.
Very self-explanatory.
Yes, that's one of the easier challenges, we'll just say. But we wanted to honor Cody because she deserves it.
Number 2, 10 items or less. Watch a horror movie that has a scene in a supermarket.
Yeah, so now you're kind of, for those who never did the challenge before, you're kind of getting the vibe. But just don't get too confident and too...
No, they get harder.
Yes. Next one is disembowel movement. And this is watch a horror movie where a character goes number 2 and is also killed. So example, of course, the most famous one, Friday the 13th, Part 5. Something like that you're looking at. But you most likely, most people have seen that, so they can use it if they don't want to do the self-imposed challenge. But yeah.
Number 4, Afterbirth. Watch a horror movie that was released in one of your milestone birthday years. And what we mean by a milestone birthday year is 18, 21, 30, 40, 50. So one of those milestone birthday years, that's the really, like for me, like 18 would be 1992. So I'd have to watch a movie from 1992. You don't have to do it for every milestone year, just one of them. Just one of them.
Yeah, it's just a little different, a little fun, we figured. But this one, actually, Tim should have read this one based on his history, but this one is called The Eras Gore. And this is, you have to watch a horror movie that has someone that has starred in a movie or TV show with the great Taylor Swift.
Yes. The next one is a little bit older musical related. Simon and Garfunkel. Watch a horror movie that has a character's name that also appears in a Simon and Garfunkel song.
Now, that sounds weird, but if you know any Simon and Garfunkel songs, they have a lot of names in them.
They have a lot of names. This is not as hard as you'd think it would be.
No, it's actually not that bad.
I mean, they have a song called Cecilia for Scott's
Cecilia,
sake.
Yeah. And there's one that says something about, hey, Tom, come on, you can't find a movie with Tom in it?
Exactly,
come on.
Yeah.
So that's easy. Next one is Unhappy Meal, and that's watch a horror movie that features a scene at a fast food restaurant. Now, I know you still guys are thinking this gets easy, but you just wait.
Yeah. Number 8, small page to big screen. Watch a horror movie that was based on a short story.
Then Tim added this one. I like this one. Sibling rivalry, and this is watch a horror movie featuring an A-list actor or actress's less famous sibling. So, start trying to comb those Jim Hanks movies, I guess.
Yes.
He did do a horror one, by the way.
This is another one I came up with. 20-Sided Die. Yeah. Watch a horror movie featuring a monster from Dungeons and Dragons.
And see, what Yeah, and what I like about this one is what Tim will probably say is like, now you have to do an additional research because not everyone knows what monster might be here in
That's
Dungeons and
right.
Dragons.
So I will give you a hint. The monster manual is the reference book for Dungeons and Dragons monsters. So if it's in the monster manual, this would count.
Yes.
You can look that up. There's a little Googling there tip for you.
Yeah, and I think I own the original one back in the day somewhere, but either way, you can find it online. Full Moon Fever, and that is watch a horror movie from Full Moon that is not part of a franchise. And I will give you a hint. Even if you don't have the Full Moon service, which I highly recommend, by the way, it's an amazing streaming service. Tubi plays a lot of the Full Moon movies, so I will give you a little trick there. So you should be able to find almost everything that's on the Full Moon site there.
Yeah. Now, this is one of our more complex objectives, so we got to go through this one careful. This one's called Decades. Like decades, but decay with it. So this is where this one's going to be tricky. You have to watch a horror movie from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s featuring the same actor or actress. So this is going to be 5 total movies. It's going to count towards your total of 31, but they all have to have the same actor or actress in each of those 5 decades.
Yes, but just as a note, saying you can claim other objectives during that too.
Yeah, like the movie you watch for the 1980s can also satisfy any number of other objectives. So
yeah, but I thought this was one of the most unique ones we've ever had. I think.
Yeah, I like this one. This one definitely had me doing a lot of research because you got to find actors that have been around that long.
Yeah,
to
I mean, thankfully, horror has a lot of people that have done that.
Yeah,
more than any other genre. So
yeah, it's not as hard as you think. Like, there's lots to choose from. Yeah,
what's challenging with it, since it does take up 5 movies, this is the ones you really want to focus on getting at least 2 objectives for each one, just to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're going to have those count towards other objectives, or you're going to run out of time.
Yeah. Next one is it's the stuff that nightmares are made of, and this is watch a horror movie that has a scene with a stuffed animal.
Okay, this is another one that's a little more complex. So double feature. Watch 2 horror movies that share the same title, or one that's a remake of the others. So you got to watch 2 movies to claim this objective, and again, they can count towards other objectives. No harm in that. But you have to watch both qualifying movies of the same name. And again, we do allow remakes, but
yeah, because like House. Let's say what's a good one? What's the Last House on the Left? You can watch both versions of that, and that claims the objective. Or
you could watch House and House, which is the Japanese version, that have nothing to do with each other,
not even close. And yeah, and by the way, I love both of those.
Yeah, but that would also satisfy the objective.
Yes. So and you know how many times, for God's sake, you can watch a movie that has blood. There's so many horror movies that literally share the same title, have nothing to do with each other. There's one I think I found it had 6 versions of it. They're all different.
Just look for Possession. You'll find about
pretty
20.
much. Yeah. Or something with bloodlines. No. Next one is Scarable Fabrics, and that is watch a horror movie that features a scene of a character in a laundry room or laundromat.
Nice. I love this one. This is one of my favorite ones.
I think this is your secret favorite.
Yeah, this one's secret favorite. This one's called I Will Always Glove You. Watch a horror movie with someone who has appeared in a movie or TV show with both Dolly Parton and Robert Englund.
Now, I don't think that exists where they were in a movie together.
Right.
So obviously, they just have to be in one with Dolly Parton and one with Robert Englund.
Yeah, it's like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing. Like, they have to have played in something with Dolly Parton and with something with Robert Englund at some point during their career.
And you brought up another good tip. The Oracle of Bacon site can help you tremendously in this challenge, and it's still working, believe it or not.
Yes, yep, definitely.
This next one, of course, we had to have a Star Wars one in here, and that's Ahsoka. And so you have to watch a horror movie with someone who is in an episode of the new show Ahsoka.
This one seems trickier than it first appears. Clowned footage. Watch a found footage horror movie that has a scene with a clown.
Yes, and they exist. Many of them exist, actually.
Exist.
It's just you got to find the right one to make sure that you haven't seen. Well, I guess if you want to rewatch it, fine. Again, for Tim and I'm putting that challenge in there.
Yeah.
The next one is very themed to me. It's and Tim and the podcast really. It's Die Coastal, and that is watch a horror movie that has a scene in either New York or California.
This one should be pretty easy. Shocktober 2023. Watch a horror movie released in October 2023.
Yes, and this is the one I think that's been pretty much, except with that one where we did the weird decades. I think it was the second horror challenge. This one appears in every one because we have to give thanks to our lifeblood of this podcast, Shudder, and it's Shudder to think of it, and that's watch a horror movie on Shudder. Very simple, but that's usually one you can easily pair with multiple objectives.
Yeah. I like this one. South America Kill. Watch a horror movie from a South American country.
That should be no problem. There's so many great South American horror films. Actually, recently, I would say.
Yeah.
So this one is a big Tim one, and this is one of my personal favorites. I came up with. It's called DiCaprio Point. And so here's what you have to do. You have to watch a horror movie where the title of the film is said in dialogue, where, of course, you might want to use that DiCaprio Point meme, like when you're tweeting along or something. But here's the thing. Note, subtitles don't count. So as long as the main title is said, you can claim this adjective. Like, you're not going to say, like, Hellraiser Bloodlines inside the dialogue. But they happen to say Hellraiser, let's say. You can use it. You don't have to be so specific to have the actual subtitle.
But there are tons that do speak the name. Like, my favorite one of all time is Maximum Overdrive, which is looks like all these cars have gone into Maximum Overdrive. And it's so cringy, and I love it.
Yeah. And that one is I think there's a very easy one to claim because if you think of titles of certain movies that like describe something in the movie, there's no way it's almost not even noticeable. So you would almost not even use it.
Well, yeah, like the movie's name is Sasquatch, then it's going to be real easy to satisfy this subjective. If it's like, honeymoon bloodsuckers from planet Venus, that's going to be a little harder, but that one's pretty straightforward.
Well, I'm sure it exists.
Okay, this one might be trickier than it first appears too, because these are hard to research. Yeah. These types of adjectives I'm about to say are just hard to research. Pet Cemetery. Watch a horror movie that has both a dog and a cat. So how do you Google that?
I mean, other than the original Pet Cemetery, really.
Yeah, exactly.
That we know.
That's going to be that's going to be trickier than it first appears.
Yeah, that's a movie where you kind of got to just look at, like, descriptions. Like, maybe look for keywords where it says, a former pet lover. Like, aha.
Yeah.
That could be it. And what's good is, what you do is, where if you're really struggling to find out if that is in there, the best thing to do is kind of, like, look for other objectives that it might share, and then be pleasantly surprised you could tack that one in.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Put it early on, so just in case you don't find it, you have some time to find it.
Yeah.
So the next one is Girls Just Want to Have Blood, which is watch a horror movie that was both written and directed by a woman, which is probably really easier than it was the last couple of years ago.
Yeah,
so
it's harder to find in the 70s and 80s, but recently there's so many fantastic
and some great ones too. So
Buffy the Horror Challenge Slayer. Watch a horror movie featuring someone who appeared in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And then I like this one that Tim put in, Golden Anniversary. It says watch a horror film released in 1973. So that could double up with your decade. Oh, no, not decades. That's right. Decades start in the 80s. Sorry.
Yes, decades start in the 80s. But I like this one, too, because October, it seems like everybody's coming out with their anniversary disc of different horror movies.
Yep.
And, of course, 1973 being a big anniversary, you have a lot of 50th anniversary stuff coming out. So that's where that came from. Next one up here is Name That Tune. Toon. Watch a horror or supernatural themed animated movie. And that can be traditional animation, CGI animation, stop motion animation, any kind of actual animation.
Yes. And next one is Let's Be Frank. And it says watch a horror movie that is about Frankenstein or has the title of Franken something. So like there's Frankenshark and basically you get
Frankenhooker, yeah.
Frankenhooker, yeah.
Time to play the game. Watch a horror.
Oh God, this one drove Tim crazy.
This one drove me up the wall. Okay, this is where Brian gets devious. Watch a horror movie that has a title with at least 3 words that start with the letter H.
Now, there are some obvious ones if you want to go easy, but most likely you've seen them.
Yeah, the part was trying to find one I hadn't seen before. That was the
right, because a lot of people have seen House on Haunted Hill, so Tim and I are not trying to. I basically gave one away there, but come on, everyone knows that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the reason why that, in case you're not a wrestling fan, Triple H is where I got that from, and he's known as The Game, and his song was Time to Play the Game. So I thought that one was this one's a fun challenge, and believe it or not, I actually found 2 that could fit the bill that I have not seen somehow. Wow. Next one is What's in a Name? And that is watch a horror movie that has someone's name in the title. Pretty simple.
Yep. Die the Friendly Skies. Watch a horror movie that has a scene on a plane.
Yes. Then this one I like. I think I was proud of this one. I like the name. It says "A Rose by Any Other Name." Of course, the famous quote from Shakespeare. And it's but this one is watch a horror movie featuring Felissa Rose that is not part of the Sleepaway Camp franchise. So you're not getting off easy with just watching one of the Sleepaway Camps.
Yeah. I do like this one too. 5-time anthologist. Watch an anthology horror movie with 5 or more segments.
Yes. Which, I mean, it's probably not as hard, but like, it's you don't always know what the segments are before you in the descriptions. It doesn't always say, so you may have to.
And a lot of the really good anthologies are less than 5 segments. So.
Yes. Sometimes it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I kind of like this one too. The thing, it's not the fears, honey, it's the miles. Of course, a famous Indiana Jones quote, and that is, watch a horror movie featuring someone who appeared in an Indiana Jones movie or TV show. Remember, there was the Young Indiana Jones Chronicle, so I expanded it to not just be the movies, but the TV show as well.
Scarns and Noble. Watch a horror movie that has a scene in a bookstore.
Yes. Now that there's plenty of horror movies in a bookstore, but again, you need to know which one has it in there because how many times does someone have to go to a bookstore to research what's ever ailing them? I guess in the horror.
My all-time favorite bookstore scene is when Harry Met Sally, when Carrie Fisher says someone's staring at you in Personal Growth, and I have to say that every time I'm in Barnes and Noble, and it drives Olivia up the freaking wall.
Poor Olivia.
But they still have the Personal Growth section in Barnes and Noble, so I can't not say it.
Of course not. Yeah. Next one is Bonanza, and that is watch a Western theme horror movie.
Nice. Slashing Through the Snow. Watch a slasher film that takes place in the winter.
Now remember, slasher is the key. Lots of horror movies are winter themed, but this has to be a slasher movie that takes place in winter. You better know when to hold them. Then that is watch a horror movie that has a scene of people playing cards.
Ooh. Running on Duncan. Watch a horror movie that has a scene with a donut.
Yeah. Well, we had to put one of those odd food.
This is the taco version from last year.
Yes, basically. This is taco from this year. And well, I mean, come on. There's a movie about that's very obvious if you haven't seen it that could easily claim this challenge.
Yeah.
We've discussed on this podcast many a time. So this one is Be Kind, Rewind, and that's watch a horror movie that features a VHS tape.
You gotta fight for your fright to party. Watch a horror movie that has a scene with some sort of party in it. That one should be pretty easy.
Yeah, that one's very easy. This one is Breakfast of Champions. Again, this is kind of like the taco one. Watch a horror movie that has someone eating a bowl of cereal.
And this is my all-time favorite.
Yeah, this is
so just ridiculous. Ganja and Hiss. Watch a horror movie that has a scene with marijuana and a scene with a snake.
Yes. I could already just see Jeff and Cody's reaction to this one.
That's
what?
the
Are
most
they crazy?
ridiculous
What is going on with
objective on here.
Yes. And the final one that is not the two bonus ones, which we mentioned earlier, is one-word title, and that is watch a horror movie that has a one-word title. And I mean, right off the bat, you can probably pair that with the one where it has someone's name in it, the title. So it should not be that. I mean, it's difficult and it's not difficult.
Well, here's the thing.
Challenge.
I think overall, I think the most devious thing about this year's particular challenge is a lot of the objectives on their own are very simple. But the problem, the challenge is going to be trying to fit 31 films into all of them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these are simple on the surface if you're just looking for one movie that does that. But you're having to, you got to get all of these objectives inside of 31 films. And I think that's where it's going to get really challenging.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the specificity of some of these.
Yeah, and that's why Tim and I do add that extra piece to it about trying to watch something that we've never seen before. Or otherwise, I mean, this challenge is very easy, Yeah. And in fact, because a lot of times these objectives are actually spawned by something I'm watching or something I just happen to come across. Like the Simon and Garfunkel one became because my father-in-law was watching an old Simon and Garfunkel concert.
Yeah.
so
we
you
always
see
try
how
to put
these
some
things pop into my head.
current, the Eras tour thing. We try to put little current events in there, and some of them we just come up with. Like Dungeons and Dragons one came from me simply because I have a copy of the Monster Manual sitting right beside my desk. So
there you go.
Yeah, so I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this one. Again.
Yes.
Any questions at all about clarification on any of the objectives, just feel free to email us at civilgorepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on social media. We'll get right back to you and we'll make a judge's ruling.
Yes. And usually we're pretty lenient.
Because we've had people go well, does this count as a horror movie? Because this is Scooby-Doo on Mystery Island. Is this really a horror movie? And we'll make a we'll confer in the judges' chambers, and we'll come
Yes.
with a ruling. And the ruling stands. We do reserve the right to our rulings are final.
All right, so we will see you on social media with the challenge, and enjoy.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.